Hello everyone, and welcome to this segment of EBTV Today. I'm Dr. Ken Freedman, your host of this segment, and we have a very exciting program scheduled for you. You know, East Brunswick has always been a community of excellence. When you look at our magnificent schools, our wonderful library, our community that is very diverse and has a culture of tolerance, our wonderful municipal services, it's no wonder that East Brunswick attracts people from all over the world to come and live here. And because of that, East Brunswick produces some very excellent citizens, and one of them is here with us today. David Rabinowitz, who is the Oscar-winning screenwriter for Black Clansmen. David, welcome to EBTV today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
So the number one question I guess everyone asks you is, what's it like to win an Oscar?
I don't know. I don't know, how to even answer because it was, the whole thing was such a blur. It's like people have described it like kind of similar to how their wedding day would be. There's this thing. It's a big event. It's coming up in the future. There's a lot of anticipation, and then it's kind of over. It feels like in an instant. The night was completely surreal. And then, I woke up the next day with, 200 text messages and 400 emails, and, I was still the same person. I had a statue.
Now, you also won an award called the BAFTA.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's the British Academy Awards, and we went there, it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the Oscars, and that was in London. And that was really cool, too. We didn't expect, me and my writing partner, Charlie, who's also from East Brunswick, we didn't expect any of this. It was all a surprise that happened gradually, and we're just happy to have gone through the whole thing.
How's your life changed as a result of this so far?
Honestly, the biggest change is a lot of people just tell me congratulations when I see them. In terms of a career, it's a great thing for a career, but things move so slowly in Hollywood that I won't really know the impact on our careers until, if ask me again in a year and I'll know better. The things we're working on right now, they were set up before we won the Oscar. It's just because things go so slowly.
Now, Charlie Wachtel, you mentioned him. The two of you are writing partners.
Yes.
How did you guys meet?
So we met here in East Brunswick. I believe, I don't even remember specifically. It's not like that first time that I specifically remember meeting him. But we had mutual friends. We were in some of the same classes in Hammersholt, and we weren't even close friends at first, but until maybe around high school. And then we were in the same friends group, and we started making videos together. We started shooting stuff, editing stuff, and we got involved in that kind of thing. We got interested in movies together. I like to say, the first time I saw Reservoir Dogs was in his basement, here in East Brunswick. And so, yeah, we shared that love of film. And while we went to college separately, we were writing and sending each other our work and giving each other feedback. And then, after college, Charlie moved out to LA. I worked in New York for a few years, and I moved out a few years later. And when I moved out, me and Charlie decided to write together.
Now, I understand that there were a bunch of guys from East Brunswick that went out to LA. How did that happen?
I can only speak to my friends group. It's one of those things of when the first guy goes, which was Charlie, it makes it so much easier to move to a city when you know somebody there. So it was like Charlie moved out, and then a couple of our other friends moved out, and then a couple more friends moved out, and it was like this slow trickle from the East Coast to LA, and I was the last one. I was working in New York until I was 25, and then when that job that I was at had run its course, I figured, it's now or never.
Having grown up in East Brunswick, what were some of the biggest distinctions that you made going into LA?
Oh, well, I mean, it's very different in a lot of ways, and it's not so different in a lot of ways. It's funny, you could go to some place in the middle of Los Angeles. I didn't realize this until I went there. You can go someplace in the middle of Los Angeles and look around, and it's like, this is kind of looks like East Brunswick. Like, it's such a, Los Angeles isn't even really a city, it's a sprawling collection of small cities and suburbs that call themselves a city. But then also, growing up here, New York City is the city, and that's what you think of the city. And you go, and Manhattan specifically is this very particular place. You go to Los Angeles, and you're looking for the Manhattan of it all, and it doesn't really exist. So just getting used to just how spread out and how deficient the public transportation in LA is was the biggest adjustment.
Tell us about BlacKkKlansman, the movie that you won the Oscar for. How did that come about?
So Charlie and I, we'd written one thing together, which was a pilot, just to see if this partnership could work out, and it went well enough. And so the second thing we worked on was BlacKkKlansman. It was in 2015, July of 2015. Charlie found an article about Ron Stallworth.
And that was on Facebook, right?
Yeah, yes. A classmate of ours, a former classmate of ours from East Brunswick, had it on their Facebook, and Charlie found the article, and there was a link to Ron's book, his memoir, in the article, and he read it, he sent it to me, we both read it, and we thought, well, this is great. This should be a movie, why isn't this a movie? And it wasn't in bookstores at the time, this memoir. It was a small independent publisher. And we contacted the publisher, and the publisher got us in contact with Ron, and we basically, the three of us, me, Charlie, and Ron, just started talking about it. And we basically just asked permission from Ron to adapt his book into a script. We never got the rights. Usually when you adapt stuff,
Wow.
You get the rights. But we weren't in a position to do that. We had nothing to offer Ron except here's our take on the story, and also the fact that Charlie had worked as an assistant in Hollywood for a little bit. He had some context. He was the one who was closer, to the business, who could maybe make something happen. And Ron said, fine. It was sort of a handshake deal. The only thing was Ron wanted to be involved in creatively. We said, great. So we went to work developing a script, multiple drafts, and we sent every draft to Ron. Ron would read it and give us notes, extensive notes. We would have these long conversations on the phone, me, Charlie, and Ron, where he'd give us feedback. During this process, Charlie, having worked in the business, knew a producer named Sean Reddick. And Charlie just really mentioned this to Sean. It was almost literally an elevator pitch. And Sean got interested, and he brought us in to pitch it to him and his partner. And so Charlie and I had our first Hollywood pitch, so we practiced it extensively. It was about 15 minutes long. And again, this was while we were writing the script. So we were simultaneously writing the script, but also preparing a pitch to tell these Hollywood producers. So we gave the pitch, and Sean and his partner, Ray, they were very excited about it. They said, well, this sounds really good. We're working on this thing called Get Out with Jordan Peele. This could be a good fit for Jordan. It'll be an easy conversation to have with him. And I thought, wow, great. I love Key and Peele. This was 2015. This was before anybody knew what Get Out was. And soon enough, a few months later, we had a draft that Ron was happy with, that we were happy with. We gave it into Sean, and Sean gave it to Jordan, and Jordan read it, and he became a producer on our project. And then, the next year, Get Out came out, and was the biggest sleeper hit of 2017. And suddenly Jordan could do anything, but also that company we were working with, they could do anything, and we were the next project. So they could do anything they want with it. Who'd they bring it to? There was one name at the top of the list, that was Spike Lee. And once Spike got involved, then things just went from there.
You mentioned the name Ron. We're talking about Ron Stallworth?
Ron Stallworth, yes.
Could you talk a little bit about for people who have not seen the movie?
Yes.
What's the basic plot line?
So the film BlacKkKlansman is based on Ron's memoir of the same name, BlacKkKlansman, even though the extra K is not in the original title. It's 2 words.
That was Spike.
That was Spike
idea.
added the extra K to make it 1 word. And so it's the true story of Ron Stallworth's experience being a detective in the Colorado Springs Police Department. And he is a black detective who infiltrates the local Ku Klux Klan chapter. And he does this by infiltrating over the phone, but enlisting the help of a white partner to go in his place.
Who's Jewish.
Who in the true memoir story is not Jewish.
Is not?
It's not said what his background is, except that he's white. One of the first things we said to Ron was, we'd like to make the partner Jewish, and Ron was completely on board with that change.
Why did you want to do that?
For a few reasons. First of all, it was a practical storytelling. The partner was the one who was going to generally be the one going into these meetings in person. So how do you raise the stakes? How do you up the drama and the conflict? Well, the fact that he's a cop undercover, yeah, that's a little bit, but making him Jewish, that raises the stakes that much more. That's number one. Number two, it's a thematic thing. So we wanted to create a mirror with the main character and his partner. The main character is dealing with issues of identity. We wanted to give the same thing to the partner, and it just helps that the 2 main characters are mirrors of each other. Third of all, me and Charlie are both Jewish. It was kind of our way into the story. And lastly, David Duke kind of emerges as a central villain of the piece. And when you do just the most cursory of research on David Duke, you see that for him, Jews are a big problem for him, like enemy number 1. So it just all kind of fit together.
And you did it at a time where, in the media and in politics, there has been a polarization within the culture of the United States based upon what was going on. Was that planned, or was that just something that just happened to happen at the right time?
It wasn't really planned, because when we were writing it at first in 2015, Obama was still in office, and the current political climate, we didn't know anything that was going to happen. When we did a few rewrites, when Jordan got involved, that was later in 2016, the current political climate was already kind of going in that direction, but it wasn't until we handed the script off to Spike Lee and his writing partner Kevin Wilmot that they really pushed it in that direction, just because when we were writing it, just that stuff wasn't really happening yet.
What was it like working with Spike Lee?
The experience of working with him was handing the script. We essentially handed the baton off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, the story I like to tell is, I was sitting in my kitchen, and screenwriting, when you do screenwriting, like there's certain specific programs that format things for you, and the really popular one that a lot of people use is called Final Draft. And so the producer told us, okay, Spike and his writing partner are going to do another a rewrite of the script. And so I had to sit there and convert, because I use another screenwriting program, and convert that to the Final Draft file, and then just check the entire thing, 120 some odd pages for the formatting, knowing that this thing is the next thing that's going to happen with this computer file is it's going to be sent to Spike Lee, and he's going to be editing it. So I've never been so self-conscious about a computer file in my life. That was it. I checked it. We sent it off, and then they did their pass on it.
They added the Alec Baldwin scenes.
Yes.
And Charlottesville.
Yes.
How'd you feel about that?
Charlottesville or the other stuff?
Both. The changes that they made, the additions.
So we had read the updated shooting script before they went into production, so we had a general idea of what was going to be, but it wasn't until we saw the movie for the first time at the Cannes Film Festival in France that we really saw what it was going to be. And for the most part, I really liked what they did. I mean, starting with a shot from Gone with the Wind, and then the Alec Baldwin thing, which is just kind of weirdly funny and kind of puts the audience off balance a little bit. You don't know quite how to react. I thought it was, for the most part, very effective in setting the tone. And the Charlottesville stuff, I wondered whether that footage is going to be powerful in any context. Is that footage made better with the context of the previous 2 hours? Mm-hmm. I wasn't completely sure if that was the case the first time I saw it, but I've seen it multiple times since. I saw it at Cannes. I saw it 2 premieres, domestic premieres, and then I saw it a few times when it was out in theaters, just to see it with the general public. But then I've also seen, when I do Q&As, I don't watch the whole movie, but I come in for like the last 10 minutes. So I've seen how the audience reacts to those last scenes many times, and I've definitely come around to it because I know just how effective it is for audiences.
David, take us through Oscar night.
Okay.
From the time that you walk the red carpet to finally hearing your name called and going up on stage and standing there while Spike Lee made the acceptance speech.
Well, I mean, it was pretty crazy. The only thing that sort of prepared us for this is that we had gone to a few other award ceremonies, but like nothing really prepares you for Oscars because that's the big one. Both Charlie and I brought our mothers as plus ones, so the 4 of us were walking the red carpet, which is really it's really an experience because the craziest part of the red carpet for me is the photography part. You stand on these little marks, and then these lines and lines of photographers are yelling at you to look at their lens, and there's a million of them, and you have there's no way all 4 of us were looking in the same spot at the same time, because we're all just kind of, everybody's yelling at you. You move over to the next mark, you're looking around. So you do that, and then you get interviewed by some, on camera stuff. They have some questions, and then you're through the red carpet, and then you're in there, and it's like 2 hours until the ceremony starts. So they've got like cocktails, they've got people coming around with trays and stuff, and you're always, you're looking, you're learning pretty quickly what the good food is and what it's not. And then, you're going to be your nourishment until after the ceremony. So you have to be really strategic in getting the right food. But at a certain point, it was time to go down to our seats, and we had really good seats. We sat right behind Jordan Peele and his wife Chelsea Peretti, and I will say the good thing that the Oscars does that the other award ceremonies didn't is they give you a program. The order of all the categories.
Presenters and categories.
Exactly. And the reason is because I have a small bladder. I need to know when I can go to the bathroom. The other ones it was a risk. I might have been.
You don't want to be in the bathroom when they're announcing your name.
Exactly. So I was pretty. Anxiety-wise, I was pretty good the entire night until the commercial break before our category. Commercial break happens, and this is when the only time people can go in and out commercial break, because it's a live television production going out to millions of people. You're in the middle of a shot. You don't want people getting up to go out. So the commercial break is happening, and a woman who works for the Academy comes over and says, "I just want to make sure you're all sitting here because it's coming up.
You're up. Yeah.
You're up." And so now, the anxiety spikes a little bit. And Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson were our presenters. They presented the category for original screenplay first, and did that whole thing. And then ours was up. And I remember Samuel L. Jackson opening up the envelope and having a reaction that you just knew instantly. He wouldn't have that reaction for anyone else besides Spike Lee. I remember I think I blacked out a little bit between my seat and the stage. Like there's just little images that flicker on and off. And then so, you get up there, and I both did not expect to speak. I also didn't want to speak. I didn't want the responsibility of saying something, to millions of people that would be, you see it sometimes when it's it's kind of awkward and they only get a few words in and the music cuts them off or the microphone gets cut off. I didn't want that. I just wanted to stand there. So I was very happy to just, be like that. But there are some pictures of me kind of looking kind of intense, and the only reason is because I'm just trying to listen to what he's saying. It's kind of hard to hear. So Spike does his whole speech, and it goes well. People are liking it, and then we walk off stage. We walk backstage, and Brie Larson, who's one of the presenters, starts talking to me, and she's like, this isn't going to make sense for a long time, so just try to enjoy it. And I'm like, okay, that's very good advice. And they're taking pictures of us, of me, Spike, Charlie, Kevin, Ron, who was up on stage with us, Samuel L. Jackson, and Brie Larson. They're taking pictures. And then someone from the Academy comes over and says, hey, you guys have to go back to the auditorium because the commercial break is almost over. And if you don't go now, you're going to get shut out until the next commercial break.
Oh.
So we're like, okay. And we're running through the hallways, all of us. And we miss it. They close the doors on us. We have to stay out until the next commercial break. So who do they close the doors on? Me, Charlie, Ron, and Brie Larson. And Brie Larson's like, oh, that's too bad. Do you guys want to do a tequila shot? And well, yes, of course. And so she doesn't take us to the main bar area where, most of the regular people are hanging out. She takes us to the back bar area where all the Oscar presenters are hanging out. And who are all the Oscar presenters? They're all celebrities. So
who'd you meet?
We go into this small room, and we're literally the only non-celebrities here, and we're do the tequila shot, and then Frances McDormand is right there congratulating us, and then there's Michael Keaton, and then there's Michael B. Jordan, and then there's Charlize Theron, and then there's Amy Adams, and then Sam Rockwell, and it was just like it was like a wax museum.
You must have felt like you were dreaming.
Pretty much. It was. It's not an everyday thing. So yeah, so we did that, and just talking to people, trying to be casual, holding the statue.
And yes, you have your Oscar
Right.
and the BAFTA.
Right.
And you have some other things from Oscar night too.
Yeah. Should I?
Let's show them to everybody.
Yeah. So this is the program. I don't know if this is the excellent program that tells you the order of everything, so that you can go to the bathroom at the right time. This is the ticket.
That's your mom's
My
ticket.
mother's ticket, right? This is a button that I dropped that Spike Lee was handing out for people involved with the film. And what's this?
The chocolate.
Oh, this is the after party. The official after party is called the Governor's Ball, and Wolfgang Puck always makes these commemorative Oscar chocolate Oscars. Should I open it up? Oh yeah, there you go. I don't know if that comes out on the camera at all.
You can't eat that.
No, can't eat it. I probably would not be good anymore.
Now, I understand that there's an interesting story about you getting into the Vanity Fair party. You want to share that?
Yeah, so the Governor's Ball is the official after party, and actually what happens there is that's where they engrave your statue. So the statues don't come engraved.
Because nobody knows who's won except the accounting group.
Exactly. So when you go there, there's a back room of the Governor's Ball area, and you go in, and that's where they engrave it. So it's really at that after party. But then there's more after parties, and the big famous one is the Vanity Fair party. And so me, Charlie, and we both were able to get both our parents to come with us to the Oscars. But our fathers were sitting in the mezzanine. And what I didn't know about that is there's a specific number you have to call at a specific time to request tickets. And we're each like, can we just get one extra ticket for our fathers? And they're like, oh yeah, fine. Because apparently people have crazy requests. Us just asking for one more ticket was very reasonable. So there were 6 of us, and we're all traveling in the same SUV. And we go from the Governor's Ball to the Vanity Fair party. And we pull up, and a security person stops us and says, hey, do you have a ticket? And we're like, no, but we have these. Let me repeat that, and we have these like that. And he said, right this way. So apparently, if you're a winner of the Oscar that night, you can go and you can take anyone. So we were able to take our parents in, and we walk into this Vanity Fair party, and Elton John is just sitting on the couch right there. It was that type of place.
Well, that was great for you to think of your parents. And speaking of your parents, you know, you come from a very wonderful, well-respected family in town, your parents, Eric and Cindy. What were the best lessons you learned from them that helped you to achieve this kind of success?
You know, I think the biggest thing was the value of working hard, work ethic. I think there's this thing these days of, I just read about it or heard about it recently, of if you have a child and they do well, don't say, there's a tendency to say, oh, you're really smart. It's better to say, oh, you worked hard. Because if you instill that in your child that it's because they're smart, the second that they come up with any sort of resistance, they'll probably give up.
Find a way to creatively avoid it.
Yes, exactly. If you're focused more on working hard, then okay, you come up with any sort of resistance, then that's just part of the process. And so that's a very important thing, especially doing any sort of creative thing, especially being a writer, because writing is all about failing. When you're trying to crack a project, it's not going to go well for a long time before it goes well. And even if you have something that you like that is working, it's so hard to get a yes in this business. It's still going to be mostly failure. For Charlie and I, even though we have done well, we've still, our rejection rate overall is probably hovering at 95%. So I think it was just important to have that mentality of you fail, you just keep going.
How has East Brunswick molded you?
We have a very good school system here. I think the thing I always talk about is when I was in second grade at Frost Elementary School, it was probably like once a week there was this thing called, my teacher, Mrs. Warren, would do this thing called Writer's Workshop. And it was, I don't know how long it was, could have been, probably felt longer then. I don't know if it was a half hour or an hour. For that amount of time, every week or so, you could write anything. It wasn't doing an essay, it wasn't doing a critical analysis or something. It was essentially an opportunity for creative writing. And I remember feeling at that time that this isn't even school right now, this isn't work, this is like playtime that I get to experience. And it was just the best thing. And from that, I started to write my first short stories. And it was from there that I kind of got the love of writing and storytelling. And I think it's very important to encourage creativity in kids, in young kids, because it's very easy for school and other stuff to sort of beat that out of them.
David Rabinowitz, you're now the favorite son of East Brunswick, and I want to really thank you so much for taking the time out of your hectic schedule to be on EBTV today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And congratulations again, and best wishes for more continued success.
I appreciate it.
This concludes another segment of EBTV Today. I'm Dr. Ken Freedman, your host of this segment. Feel welcome to tune in again.